right, and we are live. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's your girl here, and this is Heartbreak Hotel Live. Let's see if we get these chats going. There we go. We're gonna see if we can get these chats going. All right, so I'm your host, Larnika Lavlas, aka Linky Love, and we have our panel here. Let's see if we can find where is the live. Hold on. You know how we do it. You know how we do it. Okay, is this what I'm seeing? All right. Let's see if I can get this bad boy shared in some spaces so people can watch it. All right. I see some folks watching. Let's see if we can get on Studish. All right, we got some. There we go. We live in some places. All right, y'all feel free to share the live, share the live, share the live. All right, so once again, I'm your host, Arnika Lavas, aka Linky Love. This live is brought to you by Cutie Pop, Queer Trans People of Color, Southeast Texas, and Larnika Lavas, LPCP LLC. We got our panel tonight. I'm so excited about that. And so the purpose of this live is to give uh mass presenting uh people of color a spot, right? Also, if anybody else needed, I remember when we first started this live, it was a support group. Yo Boogie was there with me. It was a support group, and a lot of people was working or whatever the case may be, and they missed it. And so this gives an opportunity for people to, get some of this good stuff that we have. And so our goal is to talk about relationship trauma, heartbreak, and healing, right? So that's what this space is about. This is a healing space for all who need it. All right, I see Celia in the house. Hey, Celia, good to see you. Thank you for joining. I know you got to get 30 minutes before you got to go, so we appreciate you. All right, so I would like to introduce our panelists. We got Yo Boogie in the house, and what they're gonna do, they're gonna tell us a little bit about themselves. I'm gonna give them an opportunity to do that. We got Yo Boogie in the house, we got B, and we got T. So we got a great crew here. So first, we're gonna start off with Yo Boogie. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what kind of platforms you're on, what you got going on.
Hello, hello. I am Yo Bud, and I'm in Oklahoma. I am a wellness line. I will also be facilitating groups for Connects. They will be starting here in July. I'll make sure you guys in and coming. Be having a space that is to our Rainbow Alphabet Mafia. That's just a little bit about me.
All right, cool, cool. Thank you for being here. We welcome you. All right, B, you up next.
Hi, everybody. I'm B. I'm a visual artist who loves to have fun. That's me in a nutshell. I'm happy to be here.
All right, appreciate you, appreciate you. And then we got T. We have T, Captivator, DJ in the house.
All the things, right? So I am T, or as people know me as Captivator or the Concerned Human. All things, everything, as people like to say. I do a little DJing, motivational speaking, community involvement, um, customized apparel, anything you can kind of think of, but anything that's centered around the community and education and bringing them together is definitely where it leads. So glad to be here. Glad to be a part of the conversation.
All right, appreciate you, appreciate you. Shout out once again to the people in the chat, Terrell, Chevette, AYE, that's Sharonda in the house. We appreciate you. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. Relationship trauma. Now, as we know, oh, by the way, y'all know I'm a therapist, right? Y'all already know who I am. Okay. So, but this is not therapy. We just talking. So we know what trauma is. Trauma seems to be the buzzword around, trauma is basically an event that occurs that affects a person mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, right? We all could be in the same place and something happened. Everybody's going to be affected differently. And so a lot of times when we look at trauma, we think about a burning house, somebody with, car accident, physical altercation, stuff like that. But we never really look at relationships as being traumatic. Now, on that note, a lot of times people think traumatic relationships are just domestic violence. But trauma in relationship doesn't have to be anything like that. It could be a relationship where it was toxic. Maybe you have two unhealed people trying to navigate a space, and that could bring, some trauma. Maybe you have a relationship where you were cheated on, some infidelity, right? That'll bring some trauma. Or maybe you have, the relationship going well and somebody decided to ghost. That could bring some trauma. Nevertheless, whatever we endured in one relationship can follow us to the next. It could follow us while we have peace. We could just be okay. We broke up, and maybe I feel like I ain't finna date nobody because that last one was a lot, kind of situation. So basically, I want to talk about how it shows up. Now, how do we know like we have been that we are experiencing any kind of relationship trauma? Like, you know, how did it show up? Anybody want to jump in? Like, if you ever have you all ever experienced any kind of relationship trauma, and how does it show up, or what have you seen?
For me, it shows up as self abandonment.
Okay.
I choose to see wonderful red flags and dip them in blue, and then they become purple so I can tolerate them. Now it's not something that I gotta run from. I don't gotta be the bull running by the horn. And that's where my problem is I jump too deep before I know what I need to actually. It's not that I didn't fall in love
Okay.
with the person, but I fell in love with the person that I thought they were, not the person of who they were.
Okay. Okay. And you said about abandoning yourself, right?
Yeah, and it's because that's what I've known. I've known that since I was an infant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the survivor of a massive burn. Most people can't tell. It looks like birthmarks. Thank you. Ooh, thank you, universe. I am so blessed. But along those lines, I'm 13 months old. I'm in a hospital bed. I'm learning to get abandoned every single day by the people and the nurses that are changing shifts, by the doctors who are, by the nurses who are changing the job over time, because now I've gotten used to shift change, but now you're no longer here on the shift change and I got to get used to it, or I got to learn a new doctor because now I need a new form of therapy. I had to learn how to walk and do all of those things again. I was only 13 months. I was just learning to walk. So I had to heal in order to do those things, and I had to learn how to do it. It was a bunch of different sets. I would have been abandoned by my mom because she couldn't be there because I can't get her touch. I can't be around her. So I learned to abandon
Yeah.
myself. And when you learn to abandon yourself, you take it on with you.
Okay. And that's, one thing we don't realize too. Childhood trauma plays a role in how we show up in relationships. Right? Anybody else want to jump in? B or T, what y'all got?
I think it shows up in other people before it shows up in ourselves, right? We always have those warnings. Like she said, those red flags are often purple, blue, yellow, all these pretty colors. I think they show up in other people because you get those warnings that you have ignored, or you get those warnings that the outside looking in can see that you may not see because they are purple or yellow flags instead of red flags. So I think 9 times out of 10 it shows up in other people or how they react in situations before it actually shows up to us in the actual physical relationship, or that we are able to see clearly, I guess I should say. Not necessarily we see, because sometimes we do see it, we just ignore it, but until we can actually see clearly as a red flag.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right,
I
B, would you?
I think Tia and Yo Boogie said it best. I mean, for me, I also turn reds into all colors of the rainbow. So Um, I think though I can identify when I've had to learn how to identify when love is conditional.
Hmm.
And again, it's because of the way I was raised. You know, love was conditional. I'll love you if you're quiet. I'll love you if if you do good. I'll love you if somebody can come back and speak well about you. But if you're just being a kid, then I don't know if I can really love you. And I learned that I took that as something that was normal and I took it into my relationships as well.
Yeah. And that's something right there. As we mentioned, sometimes when we growing up and love is on display, or what we think love is, or maybe what our parents or guardians or parental figures think love is, may not be the most healthiest things. And a lot of times we see that, and that view models how we show up in relationships. And if we have, like, some things that was missing, if you have to prove yourself to get attention or to get love, that makes you feel like, well, when I'm in a relationship, I have to do that, you know. And that brings us to attachment styles. And that's really a big thing on that. Y'all familiar with attachment styles? Anybody want to
Hmm.
share a little bit what they know? So you got like the anxious attachment.
I think the biggest one is the trauma bonding, just attaching through the trauma. I mean, I feel like that's the most common to me.
Yeah. Yeah. You have people that kind of get into situations where they are connecting from a toxic space, and because it's familiar, we tend to stay there. We tend to stay in these spaces that's not good for us. Like, you have people who have anxious attachment, right? If I'm afraid that my partner is going to leave me, then I'm going to abandon myself. I'm going to do everything I have to do that's probably more uh performative than actually natural flowing love, right? We have those things. Sometimes we have people who are avoidant. They really want the love, but they're scared. You know, um, these are the ghosters. These are folks that'll ghost you and um, get to running when times get tough, right? Those are those abandonment issues. Yeah. What they say, I've heard of it, like trauma bonding being what they do know. Yeah. That's basically what you know. If you're in a toxic situation you grew up with, you're going to continue to be in that, right? Another thing that we struggle with is communication. A lot of times we, especially with uh mass presented or mass centered individuals, it's unfortunate that heteronormative ideologies kind of come to play when we try to figure out who we are, right? I'm not uber feminine. I'm not necessarily masculine, but I'm somewhere in between there. Or maybe I do, maybe I am further along the spectrum. But nevertheless, my role models basically have shown me that my emotions, I should not show emotions, right? That I shouldn't say nothing. Like, if I'm in a relationship, that I'm just supposed to do, and if something hurts my feelings, I ain't supposed to say nothing. Have y'all experienced anything like that as far as being mass presenting and having it to come up?
Definitely. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I am the least mass presenting of everyone right now on this panel. I do not consider myself a stud, but I'm definitely not a femme.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
consider myself exactly having a label, but I am who I am. I am the provider. I am the one who generally is the taking care of. So when it comes to that label, that is label. more than anything. Now, I have been on the opposite side of it, where I have been the femme to the stud, and that's my problem. Too dominant, I'm too this, and then I'm told, okay, you can cry when you wearing heels, but you over here with the Levi's, shut up. Like, bro, let's go. And why? With the heels on, I should be able to cry with the Levi's and my Jordans on. Difference. I'm a woman. I'm a person. I'm a human being. I should be able to express what I'm going through regardless of my gender, my creed, my class, my race. But we don't look at that even in our portion of society. And a lot of times we put heteronormative norms on our society.
Yeah.
We start treating each other like we're men. Definitely not the case. Because men don't have a space to talk either. So how could a stud?
Yeah.
Because
That part.
that's what it's presented as.
Yeah. That part.
I think some of those labels and norms we say as a society, but I think it's more so as the alphabet mafia puts more on them than the hetero society does. Or I don't even want to say more labels, more pressure, because I don't feel like it's necessarily a label, because I do feel like there are some feminine presenting that are often more stable, more dominant, more, commanding of a household sometimes. But I think the pressure side of it comes from our own community or sometimes our own selves, because that's what we're supposed to look like, or that's what it's supposed to look like, or because I don't want to, as she said, walk around in heels, I have to do this or I have to do that. And I think it's not so much the label as the pressure that we put on ourselves, as opposed to just putting pressure to be ourselves. And then being ourselves will, allow us to attract the type of person that understands who we are as an individual. And then we don't necessarily have to worry about the labels or the pressure. I think some of it is a lot that we put on ourselves. And it's like, well, I have to do this because this is what I'm supposed to be, and this is how I'm dressed, and this is what I'm going to do. And then we're frustrated ourselves because this is not the role that we're having in the relationship, or this is not, what we're upholding, or it's not how it's going. And then the frustrations come in with the person that we're with, but it's not frustrations because of the actual relationship. It's more frustrations of the pressures we put on ourselves.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like when you're more comfortable in your skin, you're able to communicate and have all of those things that you need, right? All right. Be what you got.
Exactly that. I used to think I didn't have any needs, and we all have needs as human beings. I used to also believe that my only role in a partnership is to provide. There is nothing else that is. I internalize the lack of representation in any other type of dynamic.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Definitely. I can say during my dating experience, I'm not a femme. I identified as a stud because that's all I knew. That's what it was. You a femme, you a stud. And I can tell you from, like you said, to people in our own community. I remember I was in high school, and I'm in my mama house, so I can't totally dress how I want to, but I thank God for TLC and Escape that tells you how old I am. When they were dressing kind of a little like, okay, this a little masculine and kind of getting away with it, so we could wear baggy clothes and kind of do all that too. And so I remember going to like a house party or something, just showing up. Now my hair was always laid, okay? I like my hair, but I will get, women saying, oh, well, what are you? You got your hair done. I mean, well, it's my hair. What is my energy giving, right? And so I remember like I was in high school. Now, I probably shouldn't have been at that house party, but I was in high school and they had this older stud and it seemed like they was always trying to hit on me. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, and people can be attracted to whomever, love is love. If I hear that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. But for me, my preference is femininity, feminine women. And so I remember like not having the terminology to really express who I was. I didn't know stud film because growing up in Port Arthur back in the day, in the 90s, we ain't had none of this. None of this was going on. It would have been helpful, probably would have changed my whole life. But I didn't have none of that. And so I remember, this older stud trying to hit on me. And I was like, well, no, I'm a man. She was like, how you a man? I said, well, I mean, we the same. Like you masculine, I'm masculine. And they was like, you gonna have to cut that shit off your head. Like, I'm like, what? Now my hair was done like Candy from Escape back in the day, just to give you a little context. So I was like my hair, and so I think, like you said, we put pressure. Excuse me. And so who's teaching us? If we give ourselves a role, if we put ourselves in that spot, it's like, okay, our community says you're either this or that. And when you get something in between, they like, we don't understand what's happening. But you put yourself in that role. It's like, all right, so I'm masculine. Maybe I'm the man, as some people might reference in a relationship, because straight people go ask you that, which one a man, which one a woman. It's like, bro, ain't nobody doing none of that. But nevertheless, a lot of times we take on that role. We take on that norm. Okay, Terrell, I see you. Sometimes we take on that persona. We will gravitate towards what society says masculinity is supposed to look like. I like the way I dress. I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable in my dress. I'm not trying to be a man, and no knocking nobody who, if that's your thing, so be it. But, and I think when we try to take on that masculine role, we look at the toxic part of masculinity. I can have masculine energy. I can dress how I dress. I can identify how I identify, but I don't have to be like showing no emotion, or the only emotion I show is aggression. Like you said, being a provider. So I done did that. I done been broke a couple times trying to take care of everything, right? And your own needs not even being met. And it's like, well, you the one supposed to do this. It's like, well, damn, hold my hand. Something, give me a hug. I need some of that too, right? Yeah, yeah, that's definitely, and that affects how we show up in relationships. All right, what is the comment saying? It was a comment that Sharonda made. Here we go. It says, I don't think it's not showing or sharing emotions, but how it's presented, creating a safe space and inviting the other person to come in when they're ready. Okay. What y'all think about that? Having that safe space to be able to
I definitely
express
agree,
yourself.
but you have to but you got to be on the same page.
Say that
You
again,
can't
yeah.
somebody be on the audio book and read. I agree, but you have to be on that. Be reading the audio book if somebody in plain text.
That part. And you're right. I was having a conversation with a friend. I can say shout out to my support system, because baby, y'all own it. When I'm going through it, man, that support system is on top. I appreciate y'all. But I was having a conversation with somebody, early this morning, basically saying, if you are in partnership with someone who's healed, they will create that space for you to be your authentic self. They will create that space for you to be soft when you need to. You know what I'm saying? Like, they will create that space for communication and all of those things. And if we are dating someone that's putting pressure to show up as whatever label, then that's a red flag. That's indeed a red flag. I've had that. I've had women that tell me, you're not stud enough. You're the most feminine stud I met, or you're not whatever enough. And of course, little old unhealed me trying to fit into a box, when I'm really a square peg, right? Maybe that's the same thing. Hell, I don't know. I'm a circle trying to fit into it. So, but yeah, we put pressure on ourselves in the community with that one.
And to your thing on the healed person provides a safe space, I think that's to an extent, because I think sometimes healed people will be healed enough to say, hey, come back and find me when you found your path. Like I went through my path and I don't know if I can take someone else through it. So I think it depends on the person on if they will provide that safe space,
Yeah.
if it's still in them, because it depends on which part of the healing that other person is going through. But I definitely think that at a point in your healing journey or your self journey, you kind of like, okay, I don't know if I have enough energy that I've taken to heal myself to turn around and heal somebody else. So you might need to come back and find me after you heal. So I definitely think it depends on the individual person, to your point, in providing a safe space for the heal journey.
But is that their responsibility to heal us though?
No, not at all. That's why I said I think
Yeah.
they can probably educate and tell you, hey, this is how I did it. But I don't know if, holding that responsibility of I need to take somebody through their own healing journey like I took myself through one. I
Yeah.
don't know too many healed people that like to take that responsibility because
Yeah. I
of
feel you.
how difficult they journey was.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I think that's fair. Hell, I'm living it. Okay. But on the flip side of that, let's say we in some good spaces and I just need some cushion, right? If my partner can at least give me some cushion, that's what I'm talking about. Like, not necessarily to heal me or help me heal, but just if I'm communicating a need or a desire and I'm being told, oh, man up or toughen up, that type of thing, right? And with that, I'm in the wrong room. Because if my partner, if I'm having a tough time, a struggle, and you pushing back even more, that part. And like if I need to set some emotional boundaries somewhere and I'm getting pushback, then yeah, that part. But yeah, healing journey, I'm discovering that truth in that tea. That sometimes you do need to just go on and do your own thing and heal and take care of you. And I think that perhaps because nobody's 100% healed, right? Nobody's 100%. But having that opportunity to do some things and get it up there, and then when you meet somebody, both people might not be 100%, but on that leg of the journey, they might be eye to eye. That makes sense.
I completely agree. I think there's a grace period, like what you're saying. Like if you're communicating and you have that little grace period. But I definitely agree with what you're saying. There's a difference between, giving someone grace in reference to whatever they may need help going through at that moment, than actually full on healing journey side of it. So I definitely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anybody else have anything on that one before we move on?
Now, something in there about boundaries.
Okay.
Now, see, there's to already know what your standards are, to know what the boundaries are of how you're going to deal with it. Because the standard is I don't deal with disrespect. The boundary is how I'm going to deal with not being disrespected. So you said I'm gonna have to set some boundaries. You're supposed to already know what the standard is, so you have those boundaries set. So someone you're not walking on them yourself.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Compromise and
So
50,
I
but there should already
yeah.
be a standard of what you expect.
I think that's where we mess up. I know that's where we mess up. Okay, because I'm gonna put myself out there always. A lot of times we get in situations, relationships with people. We meet folks, however we meet them. We go with feelings and emotions. You cute. We like the same stuff on TV. You might have a coin. I don't know. And bam, we date. And all that stuff is left out somewhere. We didn't even think about it. We didn't probably have no boundaries because if we had trauma growing up or we had trauma from previous relationships, right? And I haven't done the work to heal, then I'm gonna get in a space where I might get anything because you cute and you available and let's go. Yeah. So
Cute
I
wear
totally
off.
feel what
Cute
you're saying.
wear off real fast.
Say it again. It wears off. Of course, yeah. Because the real, after that, what, honeymoon period, we have that honeymoon period where, oh, we like the same stuff. Let's go to wherever, and we can take the pictures and relationship goes and do all these things. But then there comes a point in time when real life sets in, stuff happens. That honeymoon phase leaves, and then whatever you was carrying with you may show up. Whatever they were carrying with them may show up, and then here we go with, some toxic stuff. Hey, TK. So yeah, that part. What are your standards? What do you want and need? Okay. Yeah, we definitely need to know that. I think, part of, like I said, we rush. We rush into relationships, we rush into situationships because they feel good. But if we have had, and nobody, I think, and this is not beating anybody up. So that's definitely what I want you to consider, when you watch this. We all have gone through some things. We all have learned some things, right? And we still learning a lot of things. And so I think a lot of times, and I be online, I be watching folks. I watch folks, they talk about this, talk about that. That's one reason that motivated me to have this, particular group. Uh, because I'm seeing all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, bless your hearts. It's that's a mess, you know. But I think taking the time to heal and learn yourself is important. Now, B, I want to ask you, how did you get started with what you do? Because I see you have, like, you living, like, you enjoying. I saw something you posted today about people just don't play; they just be all serious. Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are with everything you do.
How did I get here? I think I'm learning how to reclaim my childhood, and I I grew up I grew up in a place where there wasn't much room to play. Um, I mean, everybody was stressed, and I understand now as an adult.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. But because of that, I became a very serious person. um, and I became this person that was like everything has to be perfect, and also I have to provide, like I said earlier, everything has to be
Mm.
perfect, and I have to provide. And I think actually it just got to a point. That's really it. It just got to a point where I could not physically get out of bed anymore, um, and I had therapy, and I learned that my naturally I'm a silly, goofy person, and I was locking that up to please other people who I don't have to please anymore. The people I was pleasing were my parents, right? By
Okay.
behaving myself. Um, but I don't have to do that anymore as an adult. It's a hard question. I don't know how I got here. It took a long, it took a long
Well, so,
time.
hey, it's good. I see you when I see your posts. Excuse me. I see living. I see coping. Is what it seems like. That's what it really seems like. You know. So with that level of stress, um, how do you think you showed up in relationships with it? Like, was it good, bad, otherwise for you?
Oh, I would hide myself completely.
Mm.
I would hide myself completely because I cannot show them that stressful side. And if that's all I am, then I felt like showing them that side of myself was putting a burden onto them.
Yeah.
Even though we're in a reciprocal relationship where we care for each other, I thought that was putting a burden onto them. And even though I was caring for whatever it is that they were going through, I just didn't see that I was worthy of receiving that same type of care.
Okay. And see that's to the point. From before. Now your person may have been able to open that space up for you to be able to show that. You know, but a lot of times we feel that we can't do that. Because of a lot of norms and standards and different things that we take on or put on us or however the case may be. you know. And so that's the part right there I want to touch on. Oh, I think we lost B for a minute. That's the part I want to touch on. Healing while learning yourself. You know, T, you ever had to go through a situation where you had to learn yourself again? You had to heal and figure out who you were?
Yeah, but I don't think mine was involuntary. I think it was intentional. Um, I think it was part of my um what did I want to do with my life kind of stage. We all, as y'all have said, have those, hey, this person's beautiful. Well, like she said, beauty fades, or hey, this person, But ultimately, being involved in so many different things that I am involved in, I had to look at um what did I need to be able to actively be able to recharge, to output so much energy into, everything that I do. So that kind of shaped who I was becoming different, and who I, would look for, what I would look for to be different. So I definitely say yeah, but I don't think it was from how we often hear something happened, a dramatic breakup or a disappointing situation, or fell in love with the wrong person, and then we self evaluate and heal and stuff like that. I think my healing and my finding me was because I wanted to do something else in life, just me in general, not relationship wise, not anything. And I think I had to take a look at how I would heal myself and become that, and what I needed in the process of that um, portion of it, I guess you could say. So definitely yes, but not in the typical way that we usually hear people that, go through it.
Hmm. Okay, okay. So you were that self aware that you just felt like, hey, I need to do something different for
I don't know if I
myself.
was that self-aware. I'm definitely an extroverted introvert, so I just think it was more so the introvert nature, the overthinking nature, the, wanting to be better nature, that made me kind of self-evaluate, type thing.
Awesome, cool. What about you, yo? In your healing journey, not losing yourself?
So I've been on one of those for a minute, and mine wasn't 100% started off with just, like he said, from trauma. I realized I was doing stuff I didn't like. I realized I wasn't in a space I didn't like, and I needed something different.
Hmm.
I was already single, so it wasn't that I was dating and traumatized. I didn't want to date nobody because I didn't feel worth it. Nobody felt worthy of me either. But then I'm doing stuff I don't do, and I was like, this, I don't like this about myself. So I moved literally across town, across the states, came to Oklahoma and sat by myself with a dog for a good year before I even opened the door for family to come in the house. And it was because I needed and wanted something different. But I've also been on the other end of it where, baby, my heart been broken. I done slid down a couple of walls, and I'm trying to figure my whole life out because I don't know what to do with myself because, baby, my heart is hurting. And in those spaces and in that time, I had to do the same thing. I had to remember who I was, and I had to remember that I learned to love. I learned to like myself. I learned that there was so many wonderful things about Boogie, Yo I Be, Yo, and Brooks that, baby, it's a whole lot easier to come back.
I feel you. I feel you. Mine was the total opposite. I'm reactive. you know, I think my relationship journeys, I played the victim a lot. And there came a point where somebody told me, like, did you, did these women take this money from you or you gave it to them? Ain't nobody put a gun to your head or do anything like that. And I was mad. I was like, man, you don't know. But then I had to really take time and look at myself and think about it, you know. And so still didn't learn then. Went through some more heartache and heartbreak until I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then it's like, I guess for me as a therapist, it's like we make the worst clients. I can help everybody else do everything they need to do, but when it comes down to self, it's like, oh, I'm good, or I can fix this person, fix this person. We can't fix nobody. We can only work on ourselves. Learn it too. But my thing was always, I could deal with that. I understand their trauma. I can deal with that. They saying this. I can deal with that. Until it came to a point, it was like, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired of hurting. I'm tired of crying. I'm broke. I'm tired of this mess. I need to do something different. And I didn't really know what to do differently. I didn't know like where to start. Now, I had a therapist. I think up until recently, all of my therapists were straight. Now they were therapists of color, but I didn't have anybody in the community. And so when I'm trying to, and no knocking off to my therapist now, I love y'all, appreciate y'all, but I think sometimes there's a cultural thing there. We went over some stuff and they helped me with what they could, but I think somewhere down the line there was something missing, and that was on me to figure that out. But at the time, I got this hole in my heart, and I'm looking for somebody to come jump on in, like we were talking about in our live. I needed somebody to soothe me because I had all this pain and trauma and everything I was dealing with. I needed somebody to soothe me, so it didn't matter if you was the most toxic thing in the world. Sometimes I needed some soothing, and so that made me start working on myself. My first leg of my healing journey, put some things in place. I had one relationship. I was like, I spent too much money on myself. I ain't going back to that. And then I think sometimes we just kind of lose sight and we need a refresher. Sometimes if you don't pass the course, you got to take it again. And it happens. It happens. But nevertheless, no matter how we get there, whether we evaluate ourselves, whether we are, in situations that hurt us, there is healing that can happen. And that is something that we have to do for ourselves. Nobody else, like T mentioned, can heal us. Sometimes we can get in relationships with a very good person, but we are the toxic ones. And it's okay to admit that that was me at one point, and now taking the opportunity to heal, that situation, to heal on that. So what are, asking the panel, what are some of the like coping, like if somebody comes and say, okay, yeah, that's me, I done been through, some stuff, or I want something better for myself, what are some things you would suggest, that a person would do? Whoever wants to go, what are some suggestions, or what are some things that you've done that's been helpful to you in healing and discovering yourself, that if somebody's like, I don't know where to start, I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do, what are some things you may be able to suggest?
Journaling, learning how to ground
Okay.
yourself, learning how to breathe. There's a lot that can
Yeah.
happen when you literally just know how to take a breath and take a pause for a minute.
Yeah. Okay. Journaling and breathing exercises. Trust me, I feel you on that one. Definitely. Definitely. Be what you got.
I would say to take some time to find what you really like, uh, what you like to do, what you like about yourself. I think these days, I think with social media and with everything, we're just obsessed with being liked, and so we'll morph into whatever the other person wants us to be, and that is, you might as well dig a hole and jump in it, because you don't exist anymore. So I would say find what you like, and then you can relate to other people that way.
That part for sure. Yes, that's child. Look, you talking about me? That was me. That was me. I remember. I am not a fighter. I will probably negotiate with you before we have a fight. But that other side of the cancer will might cuss you out. So just that part. And I remember I was dating somebody and some dude did us something and she ran all the way in the store for me to go fight this man. I'm like, girl, nah, we ain't doing that. I ain't assault her. I think he cut off in the parking lot or something, but I'm like, nah, we ain't finna do that, nah, I ain't doing that. But learning who you are, yeah, because a lot of times we don't know. And I can say being in the community, being in the LGBT community, um, for me growing up, I wasn't allowed that space to discover who I truly was. As a kid in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, there was no representation. There was nothing on TV that had gay white men. And I remember watching something earlier. Somebody said all we had was Ellen DeGeneres. I'm like, child, I was in college when Ellen came out. Okay. So growing up, I didn't have any real, representation. There wasn't anything out there. We thought Queen Latifah was gay, but she didn't come out yet. And we kind of wondered about the, well, I think we knew about the Brett, but she didn't really officially say nothing. So, we didn't really have that. And so growing up, I know for me, my mom put the dresses on. Your hair gonna be cute for church, the ruffles and all that, and I hated it. My nanny was a seamstress. They would make these clothes. I hated it, and so I know for me growing up, it was tough trying to figure out, okay, who am I and how do I fit in this queer space? And so when I knew I like masculine, that's my stuff, trying to figure that out and allowing other people to dictate on what that's supposed to look like for me. And so it's been a journey with that self-discovery. I don't know if other people have had similar stories when they've been put in a box, but then there comes a point in time when we're old enough, because when you're a kid, you gotta do what your parents say. But when we become adults, now it's on us to be able to get out of that box and discover who we are and what we like. Definitely. All right, T, what you got? If somebody had to come to you and say, hey, I'm trying to figure this thing out, what can I do?
I think the two main things is to be honest with yourself. Self-evaluation is definitely the hardest. So being honest with what it is that you really want or what your end goal really is, as opposed to what you think it should be. Sometimes that's the hardest question. And then scheduling self-time, right? Because we always say we need to figure it out and we'll put everything on the back burner except for ourselves. So make it a priority or make it important enough for you to put it on your schedule, even if it's 15, 20 minutes of saying, hey, I'm going to take time for me. And it don't have to be going out and doing nothing. It could be journaling. It could be, um, finding what you like to do, music, whatever it is, but actually letting yourself or giving yourself permission enough to say that you are important enough to put on your schedule. Because we'll put everything else on our schedule, whether it's phone, write it, anything like that. But tell yourself or give yourself permission that you are important enough to put on your schedule.
Okay, that's what's up. Making time for self, setting boundaries. Yeah, I need to have time for me because I know I can make time for everybody else. And you know what? It's okay to say no. Even in relationship, we have to have some boundaries. And as somebody mentioned to me before, a healed partner will understand, oh, you need time for you, I need time for me too. And not to be offended by that, but it's like, hey, I'm over here putting on my red cape saving the world. I need some time to take that off and just chill for a little bit. And if somebody get mad at that, then something is definitely wrong. Something is definitely wrong. So learning who you are is important before you get into any relationship. you know if you have that space to do that. Now if you're in a relationship, I don't know how you would navigate that. I guess the same thing, because if you're in partnership with somebody that's emotionally mature enough to be like, okay, do what you need to do, then sometimes we get in relationships even though we know, okay, I got some things, or I'm going through something, and partner not going nowhere. Partner like, I'm here, you do it, figure it out, or whatever. I don't know, the case may be. Still take that time. You can set boundaries. You can learn who you are. You can go to therapy. You can journal. You can breathe. You can enjoy life in partnership. If that's partner saying going nowhere, get it together. I'm here. Okay. And you are by yourself. You can do these things too. You can truly do these things too. All right. So for our next topic, healthy love. What does healthy love look like? Or what? How do you? What does it look like to you? Everybody might say something else. Everybody might have a different opinion. But what does healthy love look like?
I'm gonna be real. I'm still trying to figure it out. I know what I will not allow,
Okay.
but I'm still trying to figure out what space I'm allowing someone to love me in. I know how I love me, and I know how I expect to love to be presented, but I also don't know the dynamics of what someone can provide in love that I'm willing to accept as well. And I have to be willing to accept that in order to accept them.
Okay. Okay. Hey, we all trying to figure it out, right? There's nothing wrong with that at all. All right. T, what you got? What does healthy love look like to you?
For me, I think it's a space that doesn't require me to compromise myself, my morals, my values, or anything that I would do to myself. I don't think there's a set way, whether it's friendship, whether it's relationship, to write a manual to say what healthy love is. But I think we know how much grace we will give ourselves as far as our self love, because of course we still get frustrated with ourselves, we still get angry with ourselves, we still grow as an individual. So I think anything I would not allow myself boundaries to go outside of, I wouldn't allow those other friendships, relationships to go out of. Because again, like she said, there's going to be some, ups and downs, some trials and tribulations. Like there is some things that happen in the dynamics of friendships, relationships, right? That doesn't mean that we just hate our friend we've been friends with, 20 years, or that we might hate the person that we're dating because we're learning them and, setting boundaries, learning grace and things like that. So what I always just do for myself, a self rule is just for my self love, would I allow myself this grace in this situation if it was something that I was frustrated with myself about? If it's not, if it's something that I would, beat myself up, say, okay, I need to grow through this, I need to change through this, then it's probably something that I'm not going to be able to grow through or to get over in a relationship aspect of it either.
Okay, cool. Self love. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. B, what you got?
I think the healthiest relationships for me look like spaces where everyone's allowed to make mistakes. And it's like it seems simple, but that is like trust is in there, communication is in there, because if I'm allowed to make mistakes, you see me as a full person and um not as a thing, right? And we never stop growing. I'm always going to make mistakes, so is my partner, always going to make mistakes. But if we never allow each other to do that, we actually can't allow each other to grow. We can't allow the love to grow either. So I think a healthy relationship for me is like, can I make a mistake here? And I'm not saying, there's a difference between a mistake and I think sometimes we intentionally hurt each other. And I'm going to speak for myself. I think in my past, I have intentionally hurt other people and called it a mistake.
Mm.
And that's not to say I had to learn the difference.
Okay. Okay. And that's yeah. I mean, we grow. We have to give each other room and space to grow. If we're gonna be together, and this is a long term thing we looking at, or even if it's I don't know, we together in the moment, and we should be growing. Period. I think for me, I'm discovering that because I have been one that's like excusing a lot of things and be like, okay, I could deal with that, I could deal with this, I could deal with that, and putting my feelings and my needs on the back burner. It's like, what do you need? Okay, we can do this, we can do that. And so I think right now what I'm discovering, um, healthy love is allowing space for softness, for safety. uh, like you said, to make mistakes, to be able to grow, to be able to learn, to be able to heal. Communication, reciprocity, enjoyment, living. How can my partner compliment me, not complete me? I was listening to Drew Hill for years. Without your girl, my life is incomplete. No. We got to come with that. And like what T was saying, you got to love you. And so I'm learning that. I'm learning what does Linky like? What does Linky love? What's good for Linky? Um how can I expect somebody to love me in a healthy way if I'm not loving myself in that same healthy way? And so it's a learning process for me. I think I'm learning, what that looks like. And like Yo said, I know what I don't want. I can tell you that real quick. I can tell you what I do not want. And so the main thing is to be able to allow space to learn. I think we rush so much into relationships. I think we meet somebody. I don't get on the apps and I ain't knocking the app people. But from what I understand, y'all got some checkoff lists. You like this, you like that. I like this, I like that. Okay. And that's cool. So you have common interests. But when it comes down to, the real stuff, real world stuff, how do we handle tough times? How do you communicate? Just different things. I think we rush so much into stuff. And after that honeymoon phase is over with, all the real stuff comes out. And it's like, dang, what is this? Who is this? I didn't even know who this was. They showing up a different way. And it's not that people are putting on a mask per se. I think that everybody's just so happy in the moment that when that wears off and reality shows up, then it's a different person. Now, granted, they got some people that'll fake Jake. They got some folk that will fake the phone and show up purposely as something else, and they got mask on. But I think in other times, I think you all caught up in this drunken love going on is when that wears off. You see a person for who they are. They weren't necessarily hiding or tripping. It's just reality has set in now. Life be life, and here they go. This is what it looks like, type of thing. So, one thing I want to make note is that life is a journey in itself, and love is truly one. And I think we all are learning what it is, what it looks like, and it's okay to take time to figure that out for you before you get in a partnership with somebody. I think it's time. I think we want to rush because we want to be with people. We want to have that. We want to, do all that like they, be clowning about Christmas. Who got the matching pajamas this year? Next year, you ain't gonna, child. There's more to life than just the matching pajamas. Definitely. All right. Anybody have any other words about around that before we uh, start our closing out process? All right. Well, all right. Well, Yo, you got it. What I would like to do at this point, because I know we've talked about some things that might be a bit triggering. We've experienced relationships, good, bad, otherwise, and we may have experienced some trauma. And that trauma can affect you. You might not think it has until you try to get in a relationship with somebody else, and then you see all these walls and all these other things going on. So I asked Yo because Yo is awesome. Yo got a book out. I don't know if Yo mentioned the book that's coming out, but we wanted Yo to give us a little grounding before we close out. You got it, Yo.
Okay, so we're going to start with breath. The first thing that you're going to need to do is put hands on your stomach and you place one of your hands on your chest. The whole point of this is it to be intentional. You want to feel your chest rise and you want to feel your stomach sink in. So on a breath in, chest rise. On a breath out, your stomach should shrink in. You're going to do this with a count of 5. Inhale. A count of three. And when you release through your mouth with every bit of negativity that you think you own to. You want to feel it release itself. First breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Another breath. 1, 2, 3, 5. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Last, all the positivity. Inhale all of the things that need to feed you. Inhale everything that is light. Hold on to it. Vent it. Know that it's you. Now release everything that ain't for you, wasn't for you, and ain't for you. Let's go. If you notice in that it was beating fast, it would have slowed down a little bit. If you weren't able to get a full release out, it's because you were not allowing yourself to actually release what needed to get released. You can use that same thing when trauma, in the middle of a panic attack, in the middle of just frantically trying to figure out what perimenopause is doing to your life. Sorry, I had to throw that
Lord
in there.
have mercy, Jesus. Ooh, that
But
part.
it's allowing you to give yourself oxygen when you inhale and you hold it for that additional 3 seconds, empowering your heart and brain with oxygen. And your brain starts releasing endorphins and dopamines is what you need. You, by holding on to your diaphragm, you are allowing your stomach and your diaphragm to say, it's okay, cortisol, you can let go, because that's where you hold that. It's in your gut. It's not actually in your brain.
All right, okay, good.
Okay. So Linky wanted me to end with something grounding, some poetry. It's okay to cry, to slide down the wall. It's okay to hold space of depression. It's okay to sit in that space and become small. It's okay to isolate and feel alone. It's okay for the dark storm to swallow you whole. Okay, you're okay. We're gonna be okay, okay? But is it really okay? Are you cool with just being okay? Okay said no. So I open light in. I cook a meal that nourishes my skin. I learn to still the rainful breaths. I allow myself to say no. I look in the mirror and I remember who I am, where I am, who I am to become. Because now I stand feet planted and rooted, anchor for self, and growing a canopy to shield from the bullshit while I use a lot to fertilize myself. I reach for the mountains, the crisp air, where my lungs are filled with love and life, where I can see the horizon view as it uplifts, where the sky meets the earth and the ashes are laid to dust. For there is a glow and that glow is you.
Amen. Look, I feel like I'm in church. Amen. Because they hit my spirit real quick. Thank you so much, yo. We appreciate you. All right, on that note, I hope y'all are feeling good. I hope something that was said tonight you found helpful in your journey. It is indeed a journey. You know, nobody's perfect. Like I think was mentioned, there's no manual of what love and relationships and everything's supposed to look like. These are things that we learn as we go and we grow. Again, I'd like to thank my wonderful panelists for joining tonight. It's like I reached out to some folks like, hey, you want to come do this? They like, sure, we got you. We got you. I appreciate y'all so much. Um, Everybody have their own platforms that they're on. So we'll go around and where can we find you? You know, where can we find y'all? People who are watching tonight, where are y'all on? How can we find you? We'll start with Yo and we'll go around. Where can we find you?
So you can find me on Facebook, Yo IB, and you can connect with me. All of my information is there. That's the easiest way.
Right, awesome. T, where can we find you? Where you at?
I'm everywhere, as you know. But definitely, you can find me on Facebook under Captivator Wilson. All other platforms, The Concerned Human. Or you can go to my website, theconcernedhuman.org, and you can find all things me. As far as any information, definitely, let's connect.
Awesome, awesome. B, where can we find you? Where you at?
I am street refugee on all platforms.
Awesome, awesome. And I'm Larnika Lavlas, aka Linky Love. Y'all can find me on all socials. Larnika Lavlas, LPCP LLC, Cutie Park, Southeast Texas, or Linky Love. On that note, I hope that y'all be blessed tonight and stay tuned for the next. Y'all have a good one.